the weekend. They tweeted, "We have signed wide receiver Travis Hunter." And then right behind that, they tweeted, "We have signed defensive back Travis Hunter." And personally, I loved it. The Jaguars didn't win a lot of games last year, but their social media definitely won this. I think it is fascinating. And of all the things that will happen in pro football in 2025, I'm not exaggerating when I say this is the one that is the most interesting to me. As one who has written about Sammy Baugh being not only a great quarterback, but a great defensive back and the best punter in the NFL during his time. And Chuck Bednarik, Concrete Charlie, the last legitimate 60-minute man, two-way player. Since that time, Dominique, we have had NFL players who were stars on one side of the ball and dabbled on the other. We've never had someone who was a legit frontline player on both sides. Can Travis Hunter do it?
I mean, I think he absolutely can. I would have said no, it's impossible to do what Shohei Ohtani's doing right now until I saw him do it. So I'm going to be hesitant to say that he can't do it. I believe that he can do it, and I'm rooting for him to pull it off. I think it's never really been something that's done before in modern football. I know you mentioned writing about Sammy Baugh. You look great for your age if you was writing stories about Sammy Baugh, man. That is incredible. But I do think that Travis Hunter is the type of athlete to be able to get this done. I'm rooting for it to happen, and I think it's possible. It's going to be incredibly difficult, though, but it's possible.
Well said. To be clear, I didn't cover Sammy Baugh. And when he played in the 40s, I just have written about his career. But that was a point well made. RC, I mean, look, no one played harder than you did as a defensive, right? Can a guy actually play the majority of the snaps on both sides?
I don't think so. And I am rooting for Travis Hunter because he's a good dude. But I believe you have to be extremely careful with the way that you utilize him. I get that Dom said, you know, we weren't expecting to see a Shohei Ohtani, but guess what? Shohei Ohtani don't pitch every day. And on the days that he does pitch, he only bats 4 to 5 times. We're not talking about a guy having to log 50 to 60 snaps on each side of the football. And let's be honest, bro, like he not gonna be playing Boise. He not gonna get to play against Washington State. It won't be Oklahoma State, right? When you play a team. And when you play a team like the Cleveland Browns, for instance, who we don't even look at and go to ourselves, okay, this team is great. You're going to have to be opposite Denzel Ward. You're going to have to be opposite Jerry Jeudy. And if you try to do that for 110 snaps, it's extremely difficult. To me, it's going to be incumbent on Liam Cohen to understand the way they want to utilize him, the way that he needs to work throughout the week, effective at doing this job, because it's going to be extremely difficult.
Danny, I'll come to you in a minute, but Dominique, why did you make that face? I'm trying to read your body language.
Yeah, I mean, because the way that Ryan explains it, he's absolutely right. It seems really difficult, and they didn't even get into the mental aspect of it. I think the mental part of DB is going to be a lot more difficult than the mental part of receiver, because you prepare for so many different eventualities and so many different coverages, adapt to what you're seeing on the field. Like, it requires a full week of preparation just to be mentally prepared to play cornerback in the league. He's going to have to do that at that spot, and also at least install 5 to 10 plays that he can run on the offensive side of the ball, which I think is going to be taxing mentally also, but not nearly as taxing as it would be on the defensive side of the ball. And that's not even getting to all the physical stuff that RC just laid out. It's going to be hard as hell, but I'm rooting for him.
Not surprised that we're hearing about how difficult it is to play defensive backs in the NFL. I think I expected that reaction from these guys. Look, the Jaguars and Travis Hunter are kind of getting to know each other, right? Like, what is he going to be able to handle? They're giving him a lot of offense and sprinkling in some defense because they are of the belief that the offense is going to take him more time to learn. If he gets to the point where they feel good about playing him on either side of the ball, then it becomes a question of how do you manage the snaps. And that was the big concern pre-draft that I was hearing from a lot of teams. If you play him both ways, is he going to wear down? How long will his career be? One interesting thing that came out of there in the past couple weeks was the notion that it might depend on the week, right? Like, maybe when you play the Browns, you might need more receivers because they're so good on the back end on defense. Maybe when you play the Bengals, you might need more cornerback help because of their receivers. So, like, but before you're making those decisions, you have to establish what is he on either side of the ball? How reliable is he? What can we count on? If you identify him as a starting cornerback and a starting wide receiver, then yeah, absolutely, play the matchups.
RC, go.
I love that, Dan Graziano. You're basically saying that he now becomes this Swiss Army knife that you use where he's best that week. It's almost like having a switch hitter where, okay, today being a defensive back or playing corner, that's your primary position. We'll sprinkle you in at the wide receiver position. Or on this day, this team doesn't have a set of wide receiver or a skill room that we're scared about, so you don't have to play as much defense. Let's utilize you on the offensive side of the ball. I have not thought of that. Maybe I'm not smart enough. But if that's the way the Jacksonville Jaguars are approaching this, this may be the most innovative, creative, and smartest way I've heard this discussion.
Maybe the switch hitter rather than Ohtani is the better comparison. I like it too. I have to leave it there for the minute. That's going to be fascinating to watch that I think is interesting. Let's talk about a couple of players, and let's talk about what would constitute success for those players this year. RC, what would success look like for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers this year?
I mean, the first thing is health. I think secondly, it would be Aaron Rodgers playing above average in the pass game this entire season and getting this team past the first round of the playoff. We know that Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers have struggled to get one playoff win in almost a decade. And so for Aaron Rodgers to come in there and to be that thing that pushes them over the top in a wild card game, gets them to the divisional round of the playoff, maybe even an AFC championship, to me, that's the ceiling for this team, and that would constitute success. And it wouldn't be one of those situations where we're expecting him to win it all.
I think that's reasonable and interesting. Dominique, what do you think? What does success look like to you for Aaron Rodgers' Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to combine the expectations for Aaron Rodgers with the expectations of the Steelers, and I think that lands at winning at least one playoff game. I think the Mike Tomlin situation in Pittsburgh, the fan base at least is getting a little tired of being really, really good all the time, but not winning a playoff game, which I'm sure a lot of teams would trade with them immediately. But the expectations there are what they are, and with Aaron Rodgers, I think health is the biggest thing that he needs to overcome at this point in his career, and at this point, or at this age, he needs to be healthy and get them to and past the wild card round of the playoffs. And after that, anything plus that or anything on top of that will be icing on the cake.
It's interesting to me, Dan, because he went to the Jets, and we were having Super Bowl conversations.
Remember that?
And the Jets, of course, are the Jets. And now he goes to the Steelers, and we're saying if he wins a playoff game, then it's a success. I don't disagree fundamentally, but it is an interesting little juxtaposition.
I think the 2 years with the Jets reminded us where he is in his career, which is certainly not at the beginning or the middle. And he gets hurt and misses a full season, and then he has the ups and downs of last year. So, yeah.